Hello everyone, I am Gurudat, Assistant Professor in Indraprasth Law College. This is the second video of Public International Law Revision Series. In this video, we will be revising about the sources of international law, which is the second chapter of our syllabus. In the last video, we had seen that there is a controversy regarding international law as a true law. Some scholars think that international law is not a true law, while other scholars feel that international law is true law. Now, uh, we had concluded that majority of the scholars and more importantly the contemporary scholars feel that international law is a true law, although there are some issues with the implementation of international law. Now in this video we will see that what are the sources of international law. Every law have uh, their different sources. For example, Indian law have sources in the sources of Indian law are Constitution of India, various other statutes and acts passed by the Parliament of India. Similarly, international law also have certain sources. These sources of international law are the materials and processes out of which the rules and principles regulating the international personalities are developed. The rules are extracted and analyzed from sources. According to Lawrence and Oppenheim, the only source of international law is consent of the nation. That means that if the states do not give their consent, then probably that law will not be considered international law by those states. Some other scholars feel that customs and reasons are the main source of international law. That means that some custom which is being followed by different states from long time acquires the status of international law, according to some scholars, including Beerley. Now, the Article 38 of International Court of Justice gives us an insight as what are the different sources of international law. It gives us 5 different sources of international law, and these are not exhaustive sources. That means that new sources can be added in the international law. The 5 sources are international conventions and treaties, international customs, general principles of international law, judicial decisions and writings of publicists, reason and equity. So these are the sources which are looked into when any dispute arise in the international law. For example, and also these different sources have to be have are preferential in order. For example, if a dispute arises between India and Pakistan, then the first thing to solve that dispute we will have to look is international conventions and treaties. So when India and Pakistan goes to International Court of Justice for solution of any dispute, the International Court of Justice will first look into the international conventions and treaties to solve that dispute. Only when international customs and treaty won't be able to solve that dispute, then they will look into international customs. If customs are also unable to solve that dispute, then they will look into general principles and then to judicial decisions and then to reason and equity. So when above four sources are unable to solve, then the last source is reason and equity. Then according to the reason and equity, judgment will be given by the International Court of Justice. So the first source, that is international conventions and treaties, this is the main source of current international law. Several different institutions, several different customs and treaties have been signed by different nations, which are considered as sources of international law. The creation of written agreements whereby the states participating bind themselves legally to act in a particular way or to set up a particular relations between themselves. For example, again, when India and Pakistan have signed a treaty regarding Indus water, then that treaty will be the first source which International Court of Justice will look into if any dispute between India and Pakistan arises. Now, that treaty will be binding on India and Pakistan. That will be the binding law on India and Pakistan. Treaties are also known as pacts or charters or conventions. More or less, these are synonymous terms. uh, it can either be lawmaking or contract. It can be between two different nations like India and Pakistan only, or it can be between many nations like SARC treaty, which includes India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Myanmar. Next source we have to study is international customs. Customs are something which are being followed by a society or a state from long time ago. So in international law, if some custom are being followed from long time by any nation, then that custom will become a source of international law. That will be a binding custom on different nations. For example, if India allows the fishermen of the boats of Sri Lanka to pass through Indian water, and it is being allowed from long time ago, maybe from 100 years or 50 years, then that will become a right of Sri Lankan boat owners, and it will be a binding custom on India. So when India will say that now we will not allow you to cross our waters, then Sri Lanka can go to International Court of Justice, and it can claim that now this practice was being followed from long time ago, and therefore this practice become a source of international law and binding on India and Sri Lanka. To any custom to For any custom to become international law, it has to pass four tests. The first is duration of the state practice. For any custom to become international law, it should be followed from long time ago. The second point is uniformity and consistency in practice. For any custom to become international law, it has to be uniform and it has to be consistent in practice. By uniform, we mean that more or less many nations should be following that custom in a uniform way. By consistency, we mean that it must be followed regularly by different states. And when it is being followed regularly by different states, then only it will become a consistent in practice and therefore source of international law. The third thing is generality in practice. Any custom for become international to become international law, it should be generally being followed by many nations. It should be general in practice. The last one is opinio juris. Opinio juris means that in the eyes of legal experts, that particular custom should be a important practice which should be followed as law. If scholars feel that this custom is regularly being followed and it has acquired a status of international law, then only it will become international law. If several scholars feel that no, it is a local custom and not an international custom, then probably that custom might not become international law. The third thing is general principles of international law. General principles are those principles which have got recognition from all the states and by all the legal systems of the world. For example, precedent. For example, res judicata. These principles, these general principles, res judicata and precedent, these are being followed from different legal systems. Indian legal system also follows it. Chinese legal system also follows it. America, UK, France, Germany, every nation follows these general principles. And therefore, these general principles become a source of international law. The general principles are based on justice and equity. They include basic principles of law which are indisputable. For example, uh, precedent as a general principle is indisputable in municipal law. Therefore, it becomes a general principle in international law also. Now, next point is they provide a mechanism to address international issues not already subject either to treaty provisions or binding customary rules. As I had already told you that these five sources are preferential in order. So if a dispute arises, first we have to look into the international customs, then we will look into customary rules, that is international customary law. And if both these sources are unable to solve problem, then we will come forward to general principles of international law. In case general principle is also unable to follow it, then we will move to judicial decisions and writings of different jurists. Now, Article 38 recognizes judicial decisions as a subsidiary source of international law and not a true source, not an actual source. The Article 59 says that the decisions of this court have no binding force except between the parties in respect of that particular case. Now, uh, although doctrine of precedent does not exist in international law, but still, once a decision has been given, that decision of ICJ in some or the other way affects the future decisions of ICJ. So in that context, we can say that it has acquired a role of precedent in international law. Now, next point is writing of the publicist. The writings of different legal scholars like Grotius, Gentili, Vetted, these writings have played a huge role in international law. Many times, when there's a vacuum and there's no particular law governing a principle or governing a dispute, then probably we do look back into the writings of great scholars, the great legal experts, and study what their view were in that particular dispute. And those views, the views of the legal experts, will also take will can also become a source of international law in that case. The last is as ex equo et beno. Many a times a new dispute arises which has not been governed by any international treaty or any customary rule, any general principle, and even the writers have not written about that dispute. Then maybe, then according to section 38 2, 38 section 2, the principle of ex equo et beno can be applied. It is a term often used in international law when a matter is to be decided according to the principles of equity rather than by points of law. Equity, say if we decide a matter, then if we do not have any particular law to decide a matter, then we will follow this ex equo et beno. The Article 38.2 of Statute of International Court of Justice provides that court may decide cases ex equo et beno if the parties agree thereto. This is a point to note that this principle will be followed only when the parties agree to it. If parties do not agree to it, then this principle will not be followed. All right. Now, in the last slide, we have some other different sources like draft conventions, equity and justice, general GA resolutions are General Assembly resolutions, and other sources like international committee, legally binding resolutions of international organizations like international labor organizations. Although uh, it is not compulsory to follow the treaties of international labor organizations, but more or less every nation follow those treaties and follow its guideline, so it becomes a general source of international law. Once again, we will discuss about ex equo et beno. The meaning of ex equo et beno is according to the right and good. That means that whatever the judges feel right and whatever they feel is good, they will follow their conscience and they will give judgment according to that principle. That is called ex equo et beno, and it is only followed when all other sources are not saying anything about that dispute. Thank you. In next video, we'll be discussing about differences between municipal law and international law. Thank you.